I had a physical contact, a face-to-face in 2007. The 7th of the 7th, 2007, by what I believe was an Arcturian, which was a blue being with a big elongated head. I'm not sure whether, with my rational mind, and I like to be logic about everything, I only saw him from the waist up. So I tend to think now that perhaps that was a holographic projection or a projection of consciousness.
Lauren, thanks so much for coming on the interview with Mark and I, and we appreciate that. And
my pleasure. Thank you.
When we got together there in Australia, we had a great time. We're going to talk about that later. What I'd like is if you could introduce yourself about how you got started into this whole thing. Just give us a rundown on how you first got started, the kind of things that you experienced, and where it's led you to.
Well, thank you, Mark and Rob, for having me. My name's Lauren Kurth. I live in Queensland, Australia. I was born in the Bay of Plenty of New Zealand. How did I get into all of this? I was born into it, I would say. My earliest memory of having some form of contact is about 4 years old. And I was woken in the night, as many people will probably relate to this, and had that strong pull to walk towards the window, and I saw my first classic disc shaped UFO in the paddock across from our house, hovering over trees, and it zipped off across our mountain. And I remember going back to bed, and that's about it as far as that memory. I remember you don't remember a lot as 4, but I do remember having a sense of knowing what that was. It wasn't something frightening to me. There was a sense actually of a kinship and kind of almost that feeling as a child that you've been left behind. I went back to sleep, and that memory has stuck with me forever. It's as clear as day. So I've had these experiences all my life, seeing lots of UFO in the sky. I've actually lost count. It has to be somewhere around 500-600 now. It's become quite normal phenomena for the people that are my closest friends, for us to go out at night and actually be signaled by them. I had a physical contact, a face-to-face in 2007. The 7th of the 7th, 2007, by what I believe was an Arcturian, which was a blue being with a big elongated head. I'm not sure whether, with my rational mind, and I like to be logic about everything, I only saw him from the waist up. So I tend to think now that perhaps that was a holographic projection or a projection of consciousness, although it did start with a whole group of orbs coming into the atmosphere and clustering before the being actually popped up. And I did ask questions as well for him, that if he was to show me his full height, it may be frightening, which I believe would have been true at the time. But that contact was the first of its kind, and things had really been ramping up in my life at that stage. I had young children, I was married, and I was being given instructions about what I was going to be doing in the world, and one of them was that I would speak publicly about this contact, but also many other things. So I've seen UFOs with hundreds of people, with ex-military, police, doctors, scientists, geneticists, nurses, and just everyday people as well. So it's been an amazing experience. It's one that has led me to deep inner work, as most experiences with higher vibrating beings should. But at the end of the day, everything I do is about helping other people and ultimately helping humanity and our planet. There's so much that could be done, so much.
Fantastic, Lauren. And you went to Egypt, and we haven't heard about that yet. I wondered if you could talk about your trip to Egypt And if you had any experiences there with respect to ETs, UFOs, and anything more that you'd like to talk around that.
I knew I was going to go there, and I knew there was something big there for me. Some stuff definitely happened. We definitely had some strange phenomena. We stayed in the Baharia, I think that's how you say it, Baharia Oasis, which is the white and black desert. We went out there for 3 nights, and we camped 2 nights under the stars, and there was a lot of sort of high strangeness as far as the energy I was feeling. And as it got dark, there was a lot of things in the sky that weren't satellites, the usual flashes and pulses and things. And when I went to bed, every night have a bit of a ritual of being asked to be shown clearly what we're looking at, because we discovered a lot in the desert as well. Probably, you know, maybe how some things were extracted out of the ground with technology. There was some evidence there of possibly gold being drawn out of the ground and things like that. And so I was outside sleeping on our last night, and I was actually putting my scarf on to cover my face because it's quite cold, and sometimes I don't do well in the cold. So I had my scarf over me and around my face, and it wrapped around my neck both ways, and then tucked into a jacket, zipped up, and inside a sleeping bag. And I sleep soundly. I go out of my body and often wake up in the same position that I went to sleep. And when I woke in the morning, my scarf was off. And it was not only off, it had to be unwrapped twice around my neck and over my head. It was folded up nicely and put beside me. And as I looked up, there was a massive gold flash in the sky. And then I saw the dog, Rob, which we've had experiences with dogs, something that looked very much like an Australian dingo, walked across the sand dune and sat up on the sand dune. And Rob and I's experience when we went out on our own that night, the first thing that happened was a black dingo walked in front of our car and stopped us on the road. And that's when I said to Rob, the contact has begun, which is quite common with me with animals. So that was quite amazing. And I'd actually the night before had said to our guide, you're probably going to see something in the sky tonight, some big flashes, because I've seen lots of movement in the sky and I can just feel it. And once I saw the dog, I actually woke my colleague and said, did you take my scarf off me? And he was like, no, of course I didn't. And no one else had done it. They would have had to come and undone my sleeping bag and everything to get it off me. But when our guide woke, he told me that something dropped into the sky that lit the whole sky up. He said there was just sort of a gold green flash, and it was like someone turned a spotlight on and off in the sky. So they stayed up till probably 1 o'clock in the morning, and wondered what that was, and remembered that I'd said to him, you're probably going to see something in the sky tonight. So, but I felt guided the whole way. Every door you can imagine opened for us in Egypt.